Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
What's up everybody, I'm Rick
And I'm Anna.
and welcome to our bucket list channel, a channel in which we try to realize the goals and dreams that are on our bucket list. Sometimes those goals are shared and sometimes they're separate, just like in this case where one of my goals was to read Animal Farms, a book that I've heard a lot about but never read and always wanted to read, so it was on my reading bucket list. I have done it. We're here to talk about that today. So yeah, and I think I'm just gonna let you, take the reign of this one. Just, pick my brain about this book that I've just read, Orson Welles' book.
Right, so first of all, I really don't know much about this book, pretty much anything at all. I have heard the title before, but that's about it. So I'm curious, first of all, why did you want to read this book? Like, what prompted you to pick it?
I mean, do you know Orson Welles?
Vaguely.
Yeah, like 1984. Anyway, he has a body of work that is very interesting, that is very well known. I've read some of it, but I'd never read this one and always thought that it would be an interesting read. And so, yeah, that's basically the main reason why I do a lot of things, because I think they're going to be interesting. And so that's the reason I wanted to read this.
And did it turn out to be interesting?
Very interesting. So you say you don't know really what it's about. We're not going to spoil the book here for those
Right.
of you who might have not read it.
Right, for me too, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So, because maybe at the end of this conversation, you'll be wanting to check it out yourself. So, it's an allegorical book that kind of transposed the Russian Revolution and the Communist Rising into the setting of an animal farm, a farm of animals.
I see, okay. So, my next question here would be, how much historical knowledge must you have to get?
No, so that's actually interesting is that when he set out to write this book, one of his goals was to make the events and also like his point of view about these events, which is very clear when you read the book, as easily understandable to the public as possible, so that anyone who would pick up the book would be able to understand everything. And so that's why the setting is so simplified. Like you have it with animals, you would think that it's a kid's book. It is not, but it's very easy to understand.
Okay, I see. So it's not that kind of like a animal farm allegory that is kind of creepy, or I don't know. Does it have a heavy feeling about it, something like this?
I mean, it does, because the events
yeah, other than
themselves
the events
are
that they
are heavy, and I guess to also circle back to your previous question, no, you don't need a previous historical background or historical knowledge to read it. If you do, however, it's a whole nother read. It's very interesting to read it as you know, and as you're trying to piece out, like, okay, so this would be Stalin, this would be so and so, this would be.
Okay, I see.
Like you try to piece out the piece together yourself, because in the books they're not the like real historical characters. They're
Yeah.
just animals and people, And so
Okay, that is interesting, actually. So you've read this book. It was on your list for some time now. I'm really curious, without spoiling what happens, after reading it, what is the part that you enjoyed the most? Like whether it's in the story or about the writing or anything.
Okay, so the part that I enjoyed the most is exactly what I just told you. It's because I have a previous knowledge of a lot of these events, having studied a lot of history. And so it was trying to figure out, like, okay, so who is this supposed to be in this world? Like, who is the real world counterpart? Sometimes there wasn't a one-to-one counterpart, but like you could see hints of like, this is this person mixed with this person, or this is this event, because it's not only about the people, it's also about the events that are transposed but also different, like the animals go into like wars, and then you're like, oh, is this that war? Is this a metaphor for that battle? You know? And so to me, that was most of the most fun part as I was reading it. But also, it's just an interesting book to read. Like, um, he definitely realized this goal, which was to make it as understandable as possible, like the events leading up to the Russian Revolution and then leading up to the rise of Joseph Stalin and then the USSR as we came to know it.
Okay. Okay, that sounds really interesting indeed. I do feel like I should get some history facts straight before I
Before reading?
would get into it, just because if you said that's the most interesting part, I definitely wouldn't want to miss on it.
But that was for me.
But for me, when I'm reading a book, the thing that interests me the most, sometimes even more so than the action itself, is the writing, like the style. What can you tell me about this? How did you find it?
Um,
Like, is it more descriptive or action oriented? Is it like flowing? Is there
I mean, it's heavy on descriptions, you
okay?
know. Like most of it actually is this description of the events. You know, there is some dialogues here and there between the characters, but a lot of time it's also like a description made by the narrator about like, oh, and so said that. You know, it's not like uh in action. It's after the fact he tells us that these and that character said something, and so most of the book is really description to a level again that is this is not a book written to be hard to read, you know.
Okay.
Not that it is dumbed down, it's a very well written book, but it's not hard to read, like, and so that goes into the writing too. um, and sometimes maybe to a detriment because a lot of the elements are, you know, repeated, and you feel like, okay, you made your point about like a chapter and a half ago, but it's important to bring it back still to like really hammer it down that, oh, this is what's happening right now. Uh, but I feel like for somebody who's trying to understand through this book the Russian Revolution, like it's important for him to hammer down a few of the points that he makes, which is something that I want to mention. Very obviously, he has one side. You know, he has one uh, worldview of
Point of
things, your
view.
point of
Yeah.
view that he's trying to pass across. You know, and a point of view that I think most people listening would not totally disagree with. Uh, but yeah,
I see. Well, I guess I found out pretty much all I needed to know about this book to make my decision.
yeah, will you check it out?
Um, I ah, honestly, it sounds very interesting. I would definitely be curious to pick it up, but hearing what you had to say, I would wait a little bit to get some of those facts out, like the history of the Russian Revolution and everything. I feel like if you said that's the most interesting part, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't want to miss it out. So, but yeah, I guess definitely in the future it might end up on my list.
Yeah. Well, as for me, it is now out of my list, and so I have accomplished that part of my bucket list. Read Animal Farm. If you guys want to see us accomplish more stuff that is on our bucket list, be sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, like the video if you did, comment in the comment section below. Have you read Animal Farm? Do you want to read it? What did you think of it? So, thank you and have a nice day. I want to read Animal Farm by George Orwell, just a very seminal book. Everybody knows it. I basically know what it's about, but I've never read it. So rather than just having like, you know, secondhand information and resumes and analysis by other people, I want to read it for myself, and